culture. Classic pop culture.
Hi, everybody. This is Steve Ludwig, host of Steve Ludwig's Classic Pop Culture and the Beatles Hour with Steve Ludwig at planetludwig.com. Here's an interview we did with actress, author TERI McMINN. Miss McMINN is the original girl on a meat hook from Texas Chainsaw Massacre, 1974. The interview was originally broadcast on February 6th, 2017, show number 116. To hear the complete show, please go to planetludwig.com and search the menu for the guest index. And now, please enjoy the interview. Well, by the sounds of things in the background, it is time for our first guest. Our interview with Miss TERI McMINN. We recorded this interview just a few days ago. And as you'll hear from the interview, Miss TERI McMINN, Pam, the original gal on the meat hook, is a lot more than that role that we have grown to know and love her for. Please enjoy my interview with TERI McMINN. Our guest appeared in one of the most iconic horror movies ever made, the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre from 1974. Her character, Pam, being hung on a meat hook by Leatherface remains one of the most shocking scenes in cinema history, made all the more shocking by her brilliant reactions. But as we're going to find out, TERI McMINN is so much more than that image. It's my pleasure to welcome to Classic Pop Culture, Miss TERI McMINN. TERI, welcome to the show.
Hi, how are you, Steve?
I'm doing very well. How are you?
Great, thank you.
Of course, I assure my listeners that we are going to get into a couple of your scenes from Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but your backstory is so interesting. You have a background in theater. You started out in theater professionally, or at least amateur theater and then profession, correct?
Yeah, well, I actually, during my high school years, I represented, I went to tournaments every weekend, and so I did quite well in the tournaments, and then I got a scholarship to go to study with the Dallas Theater Center, which was affiliated at that time with Trinity University in San Antonio. So I continued on, working and studying with the Dallas Theater Center for a year. Mm-hmm. And then I moved to Austin from Dallas, Austin, Texas. And after I moved, I was going to go to the University of Texas, but they were at odds, the two departments, and they refused to accept any of my hard-earned credits to Trinity.
Oh, how
Not
terrible.
one.
Oh, what a
Really
shame.
I was devastated. So anyway, I waited tables for a year and signed up for nebulous classes, English and all this. And then a friend took me to see a play at St. Edward's University in Austin. And it was, I can't remember who it was, but they had Hollywood people in all the time. So I decided I would go and audition for them and see if I couldn't, get cast. And they cast me immediately in a show with a man named Jonathan Harris.
Oh, Lost in Space?
Lost in Space, mm-hmm. Right. And I played a hooker who turned tricks in a cemetery. I'm Judy.
Wow, you can't get rid of that hook, can you?
Yeah, right. In the adding machine. And it was funny, I had a Honda 100 at the time. And so the director asked if I could it was a theater in the Round, beautiful theater. And he had me drive my motorcycle up by the entrance and rev the engine and come into my scene in the cemetery with my, motorcycle.
What an entrance.
So it was really kind of funny. But anyway, I got back into theater, and then they had me, in all their leads, and I signed up for a couple of classes. so I got to work with different, Hollywood people that would come in, and I was doing, I was doing a play called Catch Me If You Can with Frank Sutton.
Oh,
Frank
sure.
Sutton, Gummer Pile
Yeah,
show.
Sergeant Carter, I believe.
Mhm,
I'm a child of the 60s myself, Terry, so all these things
okay.
are near and dear to my heart.
Okay, well, good, because, kids have no clue who
I
you're
know,
talking
yeah.
about. So, anyway.
What they missed, right?
Yeah, they missed Gomer Pyle. That was I loved that
Me
series.
too. And Andy Griffith before that, when Jim Nabors was on Andy Griffith. But I digress, I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah. No, exactly. So anyway, I was doing a play, and I had done several with them, and they saw. Let's see, how did this happen? The people that were doing Chainsaw saw my picture in the paper, and apparently they'd gone around Texas, to Rice University, SMU, University of Houston, UT, all these schools, and they'd seen around 500 girls, and they still hadn't cast my part. And so they called the theater, and the director told me about it, and said, these people doing a horror movie. Well, it was a non-union film.
Mm-hmm.
And, at that time, doing non-union wasn't great, because you could quickly, it was just frowned upon by everyone.
Oh, sure,
It was hard to
understandably.
get in. At that time, there were no independent spirit awards on the beach in Santa Monica.
Right, put it that way.
And, it was one step below doing softcore porn. So I was very reticent to be involved. I didn't know who these people were, and, they said it was a horror movie. And I, expected to be doing Edward Albee plays. And
Absolutely, sure. Yeah. Hey, what did your mom think? I know you were an adult, but what did your mom think when you accepted the role?
Well, she was never supportive of my
mom and
acting.
dad. Oh,
at
is
all.
that right? Oh,
She
I'm sorry to hear
did
that.
everything she could to. She would just get very quiet and not talk to me.
Mm-hmm. And that spoke volumes.
Yeah, very unsupportive at
Oh, I'm
best.
sorry to hear that.
So, well, these things occur.
Yes, I know they
But
do.
at any rate, I did the film. But what happened? A friend had told me, Terry, you should just go ahead and do this, because I didn't know what to say, to them, and he said, why don't you give him a call and just tell him that you're really interested? And so I did that. I called Kim Hinkle, who was the writer, and he said, okay, well, come in tonight and wear some short shorts. So I was sharing an apartment with a girlfriend it was only about 10 or 12 blocks from where we lived. And so I put on my white short shorts with the embroidering up the side of flowers, and little pink top and my sandals, and I rode my bicycle over and I auditioned for them.
And let me guess, you got the part.
I did get the part, and I really didn't know. I mean, all I read were a few sides. They told me that it was a family of blah, 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 and not a whole lot of information, And so that's where it all began, in Austin, Texas.
Terry, I had read either seen an interview you had done or read an article, how important it is as an actor to have a backstory of the character. And you almost had to, you say, invent a backstory for Pam and for Kirk, William Vale's character.
We did.
That it helps to have a backstory.
We did, yeah. Bill was, trained as I was, Marilyn was, and we did. We decided that we were secretly married and that we really hadn't told Sally or Jerry and of course we hadn't told Franklin. So that was in Bill's. And Bill, we sat around on the set for a lot of days in the beginning with not much to do, so we quickly bonded and said, okay, this is what we're going to do, And we did. We just came up with those little backstories, and it helped us a lot.
Did you find yourself having to do that in theater work as well? Coming up with the backstory?
I always did a character. Yeah, I did. I made a lot of decisions for my characters all along.
So we started the filming of Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I have actually three sections, if you don't mind, I'd like to talk about. First, in the van. Sure. In the van, was that Tobe Hooper in the van holding the camera, or was that Kim Henkel? Or it must have been awfully claustrophobic.
What, in the van?
Yes, in the van scenes.
The cameraman Daniel was in the back, along with Wayne Bell and or Ted Niccolo. And I think they, Ted and Wayne kind of helped one another out. They were both doing sound. And so it was Toby and Wayne, Daniel, the cameraman, and then all of us, the five of us. So it was 8 of us. And, yes, it was very hot. It took about 3 to 4 days to film those scenes. And it was all day in that van, the windows rolled up in Texas heat. So less than pleasant.
I guess that's where perhaps being a union project, you might not have gone through that as much. But it's. I mean, I'm sorry you had to go through that, but boy, there isn't a more realistic feeling movie, I think, than Texas Chainsaw Massacre. In hindsight, can you understand, or are you okay with what Tobe Hooper and Kim Henkel were going for, or was it more a matter of just cost?
Well, what happened was we filmed for about a week to 10 days, and then they ran out of money. And so we were all dismissed, I guess, for the weekend, and they called us and said, oh, okay, we've got money, but, we want you to come back and we film for another 4 to 5 weeks and do it for deferred money. So we all signed these contracts, and they gave us a point or a half a point or 2 points, depending on, who we were. And we thought that, they would, we prayed that they would honor the contract. And I'm not living on Mulholland, let me put it that way.
You're living.
I'm living.
I would assume it's not always good to assume, I know that, but as a young actress, you probably felt, I'm not in that much of a position to say no to these things.
They guilt tripped you, so anyway, we did it, and we put our hearts into it, and we stayed. I think it was a day or two before my birthday, and we were, my scenes had finished, but they felt that they had missed getting they needed some voiceover work done. And I was broke. I'd lost my waitressing job to pay my rent. And I needed to I got cast in a play, and it was to play Lizzie in The Rainmaker, which I'd been doing in Austin. We've been getting standing ovations. We had a great cast. And the star, Peter Breck from the Big Valley, wanted me to go and do the role for 6 weeks in Lubbock, Texas, at another dinner theater. And I would get my equity card, which was everything to me, because I was stage trained and I wanted my equity card badly.
Sure,
And they couldn't nail down the days that they might need me for the voiceover. And so we had a huge argument, and I said, look, I can get $600 a week. I can't pay my rent. I'm broke. I'm all this. They just threatened me and said, if you don't do this, we're going to sue you and blah, blah, blah. And I'm 21, 22. I have no agent. I'm alone against them. And it really did not set well with me, but they did, So there's a picture of me sitting on the steps in Wikipedia with my chin resting in my hand.
Yes, I'm familiar with that picture, sure.
It's a candid shot. Sally walked by me, and she said, "Hey, Terry," and I looked up, but I was just miserable, sad, because I was doing their pickup shots, and they only needed me for that one day.
And,
so it was it was not a great time. Right after that, I just had to move, and I moved to Dallas with a girlfriend, packed everything in my Volkswagen van, and
as any good hippie girl would. Even though it was 74,
good
right?
Hippie chick would, yes. And we had a good time.
Good. Just to go off track just a bit, you mentioned again with the theater. This is probably a rhetorical statement, but I guess there is nothing like the rush of a live audience's applause and cheers. Is that have you felt that? I'm sure you've felt that many times, right?
I remember when I was playing Lizzie in one of the scenes in the tack room with Starbuck. I heard these. I'm doing Lizzie's speech, and it's a beautiful speech about life and blah, 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 blah. And I heard these two little women who were sitting, it's in the round, so you're really close to the people. And I heard them sigh and go, oh. There's nothing like it, when you really feel you've touched people.
Oh, my gosh, I can imagine.
Yeah.
I can only imagine, I should say.
That was my great joy.
So, Terry, I apologize for asking you this question for probably the millionth and first time. But I know you weren't all too happy with the camera angle on the swing shot.
No, I wasn't. I was surprised. And they had just asked me, after we signed our deferred payment contracts, Kim took me aside and asked me if I would do some nude shots, skinny dipping with Kirk, if they could find a place, a pond or something for us to swim. And I said, absolutely not. I will not do it, And
that would have seemed gratuitous. I'm sure it did to you, but actually looking back, really, it would have been just gratuitous.
Well, they couldn't have used it because it would have gotten them an X rating.
Got you too, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so, let's be frank, what was it for,
Mm-hmm.
So, at any rate, I, was strong enough to stand up to them and say, no, I'm not going to do that. So on that day that we were filming, I knew I was supposed to go sit in the swing that was out in the yard. And I looked, Dottie was doing my makeup, and as she was putting on some makeup on me, I looked out of the corner of my eye, and I saw her husband at that time was Daniel Pearl, our cinematographer. And I said, Dottie, what is Daniel doing under the swing with the camera?
Mm-hmm.
And she said, I don't know. So I knew something was up. And Toby and I had quite a come to Jesus moment. And I just said, look, you can't, I'm not going to do it. I am not going to do this. I'm not going to do it. And finally he said, Terry, he chewed on his cigar. He said, Terry, we're going to shoot around it. And they did. They shot all around my house in CinemaScope and Technicolor.
Yeah.
And that was what I was so worried about. I remember when my girlfriend and I drove from Dallas, where I'd moved after Austin, and we were driving to Houston, where it was showing. And on the way to Houston, we saw a guy who was hitchhiking. And, this is 1973. Hitchhiking was very common back then. And she said, the same lines that we say in the movie. It was exactly the same. She said, hitchhiker. And I said, what does he look like? And anyway, we wind up picking this kid up, and he gets into the van. We open the side door. He gets in the van, and he starts talking about how he went to the drive-in the night before, and he saw this movie.
Oh, boy.
And it was freaking this and that, and oh, my God. And blah, blah, blah. Well, I was very hungover. Dee and I had a late night, and I'm sure we were smoking pot or whatever that this kid had, and, it was the 70s. And so I had my sunglasses on, but I had no makeup on, which is actually illegal in the state of Texas for a young girl not to have at least her lipstick on. But anyway, I was brazen enough to pull my glasses up, and I turned around and I said, do you recognize me? Because I asked him, I said, well, was there a girl on a meat hook or something? And oh, yeah. And he just went off. And so once I knew that he liked my work, because, of course, I hadn't seen any part of the film,
Oh, okay.
I think I'd seen one day of rushes from something.
But nothing like up on the big screen, sure.
No. And back then, to have anything played back to you, it was days after we had shot it. There was no instant playback on anything. So this guy, I thought he was going to have a heart attack when he found out who I was. And I would absolutely love to, I'd love for him to surface someday. But anyway, we went to see this, and it was at a matinee where there were 500 screaming kids, And that moment when I get up from the swing and the camera is on close-up, I am just mortified. I am mortified, And I had no idea that when we were at the Coke machine at the gas station, Toby, the director, had kept my attention, talking to me and explaining kind of what he wanted. And all the time he was doing that, Daniel was secretly filming my butt, standing. And I never knew that until we had our reunion, and Daniel came and joined us in Austin at a horror festival here. And he told that story, and I said, I can't believe you did that.
Right. You rat.
Yeah, I knew you were under the swing, but I had no idea. But, So anyway, it was a big deal to me because, my mother was totally unsupportive, very religious.
And that didn't help, right?
Her sister, one of her sisters, who, she was very close to, I was afraid they were going to see this and just, my mother would have been one of those people that would have marched outside the theater had she known. It was. So,
I want to read a quote from Gunnar Hansen. Of course, he played the late Gunnar Hansen. He played Leatherface, about the hook scene. He said, "It's horrifying and gruesome, not because you ever see the hook going in, but it's because you see Terry's reaction to the pain of the hook." And Terry, I remember so vividly the first time I saw that scene, and you're just trying to catch your breath. It was so you just sold it so perfectly. I really felt that hook was in your back, and 1,000 kudos to you. How did you prepare for that scene? It was wonderful.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate that. Yeah, and the funny thing is that I beat myself up for 30 years thinking I was terrible in the film.
Oh no, heavens no.
It was quite a stunning thing to me when I went to my first convention, in 2008, and there were all these people. I could not imagine why they wanted to talk to me.
Oh, my goodness.
What happened with that scene was the day before we were going to shoot it, Toby asked me if I had thought about it, and I told him yes, I had. And I thought that if the hook didn't hit her in a strategic point, that she might try to reach up to get off of the hook, to pull herself up. And so that was my intention. And it was, people have often thought that that was a difficult or, horrid scene. The only thing that was horrid about it was that I had to, wear this basic chastity type belt inside my shorts, and then they used pantyhose to attach it to the underneath of my bathing suit.
Yeah, I mean, there was nothing on the back. Obviously there was
Right.
from the angle, but yeah, that was a tough outfit that they would have to make it work.
Yeah, so, and there were really no dressing rooms, so I remember that afterward Dottie sprayed me down because the blood that they used was Cairo based. And so the flies, heat, flies, Texas, summer.
Yeah.
So that was the only part. But we started shooting that first thing in the morning around 9 a.m., and we finished at noon. So 3 hours was all it took to do all of those scenes on the meat hook. And
that even seems like a long time to me, but I'm a layman. But 3 hours doing that must have been rough.
Well,
relatively speaking, I guess not.
For that was quick.
Yeah.
And it wasn't that much time on the hook. There were anyway. The director was underneath me, spotting me, so that the hook went into the ring, and also it was when we finished. There were about 20 people from the crew, and some of the cast came to see the scene shot, too. And everyone was standing in a line opposite the meat hook, where Gunnar and I were. You could have heard a pin drop. It was so quiet, and everybody had these ghastly looks on their faces. They were completely stunned, and at that moment, I had this little inkling. I thought, oh, maybe we got that one,
Yeah.
And
oh my God, what a tremendous job! Just like, and I'm not even going to try to imitate you, but you're gasping for breath and reaching back. Just great. Really great.
Well, thank you. Now when I watch it, I must admit I like the scenes. I think. I say to myself, well, gosh, Terry, that was fine,
Yeah, doggone it. I nailed it. Or hooked it or whatever. No pun intended.
Now Pam posts the gifs of it. I let her post the gifs,
Terry, I can't believe our time is almost up. We have about 5 minutes or so left. I want to let the listeners know you actually have 2 Facebook pages, which is the reason you do it this way. You have a TERI McMINN page and a Pam, the original chainsaw gal. It's a great idea why you do it that way. Could you explain to us? And then I want to talk about some of the merchandise you have available, too, on your Pam page.
Yes. Yes, I'm, when I first joined Facebook, I was pretty overwhelmed because I went to my first convention in Cherry Hill, New Jersey, and I had lines longer than Gunnar.
Yeah, what I hate to, if you don't mind talking about this, I know you kind of put off going to conventions for a bit.
Yeah, I had a flower business for many years. I ran all the catering for all the on the border restaurants in Dallas for 2 years. But my flower business, when I had to put my acting in a drawer and make a decision to, do something else, it was very hard for me emotionally because I really loved acting. And I had intended on having, a career. So anyway, when I had to do that, it was very painful, and I decided that I would just, devote myself to finding a career outside of acting. And so when I did that, it was really good because I had to get very creative. I started my flower business from money I had saved from running the catering business for On the Border. And I had made them such a pile of money. I think our sales the first year that I did it for them were $500,000.
Holy smokes.
That was pulling food off of their line at non-peak times. So they were still making all their money, from regular sales in the restaurant. And this was just amazing to them. So I actually did their on and off premise catering. So some events were 500 people. It was a big challenge, but I did really well with it. And so I thought, well, then if you can do that, then you can do your own flower business, which I had wanted to do ever since I had left L.A., because I had a flower stand and was acting on the side in L.A. and, going to auditions and things like that. But I had done flowers there, and I wanted to really commit to doing a business. So I did that from 1990 until 2003.
Boy.
And then I missed living in L.A., and so I sold everything. It had been rough after 9/11 anyway. Flowers they're not food.
Yeah, yes, yep.
So a lot of small businesses went under at the time, and I just decided, I'll move back out to California, and I did, and I ended up managing hotels on Venice Beach. And
boy, you are certainly a Renaissance person, truly.
Well, it was truly. I have great memories of it, but boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, it's a 7-day-a-week thing. It's
especially if it's your own business, you're heavily involved. There's never a day off.
Well, I lived a half a block from the hotel, which is one of the reasons that he hired me. And so if somebody came in late and they needed to get into the room and they had a problem or any problem, I had to go at night or, know. So it was quite a challenging job, and I made them a boatload of money too. So that's always a good feeling. But then they kept asking me Terry, would you please, can't you go to a convention? So I had, in 2007, New Line Pictures wanted to do a release of Chainsaw, and they wanted to do an interview with me. And this guy, Michael Fleischer, was very nice, and I talked to him a lot. Gunnar had told me to, go ahead and talk to him, Terry, go ahead. And so we made an appointment to meet at the restaurant on the beach down the block from my house. I went to meet him, and I watched his lips moving, and I just said to him, I'm not ready. I can't come out. I can't do this. So I felt awful, and he said, no, it's okay, it's okay. So I waited a year, and by that time I was ready. I'd had kind of 4 years of managing the hotel. I'd made them a lot of money, and I thought, I'd like to try these tournaments. These conventions.
Yeah.
And Gunnar had told me about them, and, he said he made great money. And so I thought, well, I've never really made anything from this film, So I finally decided I would go, and nothing could have overwhelmed me more than to see these people standing waiting to talk to me.
Yeah.
And after the first 2 days, I looked around at the cast and I said, can we do this every weekend?
Right, yeah. It's
sure.
Yeah, it forever how long the shoot took. It's forever in horror fans' lives. You'll always, that film will always be, one of the top horror films ever made. So about your Facebook page, if they can't get to see you at conventions, you have merchandise that's available on Pam, the O' original Chainsaw Gal. Any person with McMinn as a last name better have an O' somewhere on the Facebook page, right? It's very clever.
I thought, well, and the thing is that they were doing all the other, Facebook. They were doing all the other films, and so I didn't want. We were in the original, and the original is the only one of all the Chainsaw films that's in the Museum of Modern Art. It's in the Smithsonian Film Archives.
Oh, how
It's
wonderful.
also-
See, I should have known that, and I'm so sorry I didn't bring that up. That's great. That is wonderful.
Yeah, and it's also in the American Film Institute archives.
Mm-hmm.
So that speaks volumes. And so I thought, why don't I just name it Pam the Original Chainsaw Gal so people don't get mixed up
Mm-hmm.
with all the other films? Because a lot of kids don't even know about the original.
Yeah.
They only know about the later ones. So anyway, it's worked well. And I did that because you get these crazy people who will send you pictures of severed bodies and all kinds of weird things.
Yeah.
And I'm into art. I'm into the visual arts. I love photography. I love beautiful things. I like powerful material. I'm extremely interested in that. Unlike most of the people that are in the horror films, they go on to do other horror films.
Mm-hmm.
But I figure I've got 40 minutes of great film on myself, and I'm fine with that. I lost that burning urge to act a long time ago.
It's tough to top anyway, this horror film anyway, Terry, right?
It is.
really
and
is.
So that's the way I felt about it. And I had somebody who had done a website for me, but when they built the website, it was our agreement that I would get the keys to it so I could go in and make changes all the time.
Sure.
And that never happened. So after 2 years of, begging this guy to please give me the keys so I can get in and do
May I have the keys to my website, please? Yeah.
My web, so forget it. So I started the Pam page, and I instruct everybody, that if they're going to, I will say, I'm going to Cardiff in the UK to the Comic-Con.
Yes, I did see that post. Yeah, wonderful.
And I'm going to Rotterdam, so that's March 4th and 5th. So I'm very excited because we have a lot of fans in Holland, in the Netherlands, and in the UK. We have fans all over Europe. So I'm very excited. I'm also going to the Birmingham festival in Birmingham in the UK.
How great is that? Wow.
I'm going in October, and then I'm going to, earlier in October, I've been invited to the NEPA Film Festival in Scranton, Pennsylvania. So I'm going to that, and that's, October, so it's a ways.
But we can find this all out on your Facebook page anyway. You Pam at the Original Chainsaw. Yeah.
I'm gonna make a little album of my appearances, and I'll be posting that. And I do post that on my TERI McMINN page also. I'm just about at 5,000 friends, and there's been so much arguing with all the elections and everything. I have to put a warning to people.
It's tough on Facebook.
You will not rant on my page. You will not name call on my page, And,
Oh,
so
boy.
I had to do that. But I have an album of the pictures I sell, and I also wrote my short stories, which are so popular, I sold out.
What Really Happened to Pam, Parts 1 and 2. Excellent.
Yeah, people love them. They kept saying, why aren't you writing the film? So, but everyone can read them for free. It's just that I do this offer. Once I order some more, I have them, and I include a 5x7 plus a wonderful drawing on the postcard of Pam escaping, which, people love the stories, and they can read them for free on either page.
I won't give anything away, but everybody, these are great stories by Terry. What Really Happened to Pam, Parts 1 and 2 on her Facebook page.
And then the hardest piece, I wrote the one other one too.
Right.
So you buy the book. It's a softbound, but you also get a picture. You get actually 2 autographs I autograph the book with a quote, and then I autograph the pictures too. So it's a really great deal for $25.
Absolutely.
That includes mailing.
Mm-hmm. Yes, yeah. Well, Terry,
Yeah,
speaking of a great deal, we got a great deal for you agreeing to be on the show. It was so nice to speak with you. I can't thank you enough for taking time out of your busy schedule. And, continued success with whatever you do, especially with the page. And again, everyone, correspondence about Texas Chainsaw Massacre on the Pam, the original chainsaw gal. Stay off of TERI McMINN if it's about chainsaw stuff. So,
yeah, well, it's okay. They call me Pam even,
Ay, ay, ay. Oh, my God.
It's so cute. It's so cute. But at any rate, I do, on my TERI McMINN page, I will post, about my appearance.
Yes, yes. Mm-hmm.
And then if somebody shares a picture there, if it's public, then I'll put it on Pam's page. I try to work with people, but it's worked out really well because this way I can keep my own identity,
Mm-hmm.
and then Pam can have hers.
Yes, yeah. Some people have trouble, not actors, but some fans have trouble drawing that line, so it's perfect.
They do. It works out. Thank you, Steve.
Terry, thank you so
much.
very much. It's been a pleasure, and continued success.
Great. I hope I get to meet you one day.
I would love to. I would love to catch you at one of the conventions.
Thanks so much for having me on your show.
Okay, our pleasure. Thanks so much, Terry. Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.